Portal to Ascension. She is a double sponsor of ours. She's sponsoring this event, and she sponsored our event in San Diego. She is offering up at her booth magical tours of Glastonbury and following the Magdalene in France. So I have to tell you, Laurie does very, very special work. And so we're very grateful for you here at Portal to Ascension Lab. Yeah, so give her a hand before you even know her. Yeah, for supporting our work and making it possible for us to be here. So Laurie D. Wheeler, I didn't know it was a D. Laura Wheeler is the owner of WellnessWithin, a transformational holistic practitioner of over 25 years. She's trained in homeopathy and soul regression hypnotherapy. As an adjunct, she works as an energy receptor and translator, which entails medical intuition, channeling, speaking light language, and as a shamanic practitioner. Working with codes of light and sacred geometry, she will transmute, activate, and recalibrate dormant DNA in order to raise the soul's vibrations. Laurie nurtures one to find and develop a more authentic self. Her work and programs are designed to help individuals or group participants to recognize their individual or group power, passion, truth, strength, creativity, and motivation. The juice for purposeful living. Her highest mission is to work with the principles of true healing and the energy force it seeks to transcend. Laurie is also the author of Oh No, Not Another Learning Experience, right? A metamorphosis through her work. She shares the foundational message of her book. Our learning experiences and life lessons carry us along the river of life to help us evolve. I first met Laurie in Mount Shasta, and now I'm running into you again in Glastonbury.
Thanks, Joe.
So give her a big hand.
Well, I want to thank everybody for being here, for opening yourself enough to walk into that which you may not know, you may know, but for being here and being open to that and shining your light so that all others can see it. And thank you to Portal to Ascension for asking me to be here, to share what I know with all of you. So it's interesting. I had actually an initiation from ISIS planned today to start out open. And then last night, I must have been awake till 3:30 in the morning. And I guess they felt otherwise. So what I want to ask everyone at this moment, for just a couple moments, we're going to spend doing this. Who here knows how to tone? Or does toning? Okay, a few in the crowd. Toning is super easy. I've had amazing experiences when I tone, and others have too. We're going to tone, but at the same time that we tone, as many of you may know, Hawaii has been hit with amazing fire. This is very dear to my heart as I lived in Hawaii on Big Island, and so I know how sacred the land is to those people and to all of us. And it is Lemurian land, as we've spoken of this weekend. So what I'm going to ask is that Big Island and Maui are in fire, but it's all of Hawaii. So I'm going to ask, when we tone, if we can send out light, because light is sound, sound is light, if we can send and raise that vibration. And I'll tell you, they will hear it. The land will hear it. The people will hear it. Because my husband and I, we were there one time when we were living there, and we were invited to a sacred heiau. Now this is very sacred land, and we were doing shamanic journey work. And we were raising the vibration. And on the rock wall came all of the chiefs of all of the islands, including King Kamehameha. And he stepped off and put a lei around our neck. Now, in Hawaiian, that's a very sacred and special thing. And thanked us for raising the vibration of the land. We could see the energy raising. So your prayers and your light is very important at this point. So if you will join me in just for a couple minutes, if we can tone, and in that toning, raise and heal that land and send blessings of light to the people that live there, that are mourning those that are gone, to their sacred land, and for the wisdom that it shares with all of us in one way or another. Okay. And if you don't tone, it's okay. Just send the light. The toning, so many things happen in toning. I could spend hours just talking about it. So we could take just a couple minutes and tone. There's no right or wrong. Just open your mouth. Your spirit's going to know where you need to go with it. Okay, on 3. 1, 2, 3. If I could just tell you, we just raised the roof off the top of this building. So beautiful. Okay, so I'm going to talk a little bit about the alchemy of light, and I have to say, I love the way the universe works, and I should give Neil some credit here too, because he put magenta before me, and just what magenta was talking about is very interesting, because I'm going to follow on the heels of that, but I'm going to follow with some of the science. So I love that. So thank you, Magenta, for your beautiful information and words of wisdom. Okay, so let's see. In the beginning, okay, there was light. Not my words. This comes from a higher source, right? So we know it. And it is all that we are. Everything is light. It is light. Different shades of light, different types of light, but it is light. And so I would like to say that light feeds us in one way or another. And that we may not even realize it, but how much it does, but it does. And I'm here to just share a little bit about that. So, just a little bit about my story first before I begin, and why I'm standing here to share my information. So I work in the unseen realms and of energy and all that is in what we cannot see, what is not tangible, so to speak. And I've always been really fascinated by what goes on there, even as a really young child. But I have a curious nature, And sometimes it can get me in trouble, but it certainly furthers and advances myself. So, I have one of my mission here on Earth. I have a basis as an Arcturian, and I work from lifetime to lifetime up on the Starfleet. And I have been there many times. I've walked through the Starfleet. I know many of them there. And my mission here is to extract information and also to bring information as an emissary, so that in the next lifetime, we know how to help others in a greater way, because we're all learning. Even those that are up on the Starfleet, we're learning each time we do this. And so it's about bringing it to planetary systems that maybe even less than where we are in our dimension, and maybe further along or different. As a child, I knew I was different than the rest of my family. In fact, there were times that I felt the stork dropped me in the wrong house. How many here have had that experience? Yeah, I know it's not an unusual, uncommon thing. But I kind of searched for my way through that, and it was quite difficult, being someone that was different in my family, and I still am to this day. But I've always been connected. I connected from whenever I can remember, maybe 4 years old. I would have conversations with Yeshua, and I would go to church. I was raised Catholic. And I would yell out in the church about as big as this when we were finished, and I would say, "Goodbye, Jesus, I'll see you next week." And I mean, that's coming from a little child. But I didn't care, because we were very connected, and I felt that I knew Yeshua. Of course, I didn't know that was the name, but that was what I called him. And so then, and I followed my path. I've always been a person who has listened and followed, even when it wasn't comfortable or convenient. And part of what I write in my book is just about that. But in my early 30s, I built a house with my family on native burial ground. I did not know it was. But that in and of itself should tell you what I was in for, the roller coaster ride. It was my second awakening. And part of that, it made me very ill because we had toxic water. I lost my memory, my ability to remember detail. So I would have to draw a map of how to go to town. That's pretty difficult in your 30s. So I was sick for about 2 years, quite ill physically. But in that time was my recalibration, so to speak. And it opened me to my abilities. And my first guidance was Sitting Bull. And I'll just say I was born in Montana. I have a very close akin to the Lakota people. And maybe why Sitting Bull came to me to begin my process. But I came heavily involved in shamanic work. So I've been in it for a very long time and studied it with many people here and elsewhere. And so now I work in different modalities and have learned along the way. My first is I'm a homeopath, and I work in chemotherapy, which is a regeneration and detoxing for the cells. So homeopathy, if you don't know, it's mind and body medicine. And I'm finding I'm receiving a lot of clients that are really looking for who they are. And so there's great remedies that can help with that. Like I said, I've been involved in shamanic journey work and for a long time, and soul regression. So I do past life. I bring people into another time. I don't love the word past life because we know it's not past, forward, or whatever, but it's another time that has to do with current time. What is it you need to know? What do you need to clear and be finished with? But first we understand it so that we give it purpose. Then I work in between lives, and that's where going between lives, where you make your contract, where you work with your counsel, you can go to the Akashics, so many places to go. Know your soul pod, there's so much that can happen in that period of time, and can answer so many questions. I am a medical intuit, so Joan mentioned, I am a receptor of energy. It's sort of like a beacon, you know? Energy just finds its way, whether who it is that's speaking or however they are. They just find their way to me and I listen. And I can put my hands on something, I can tune in. It doesn't matter if it's a rock, a petroglyph, a person's health, someone speaking from the other side. I just hear, it's being a receptor. But then beyond, I translate. And this is I'm going to explain a little bit more in a bit. So I work with a lot of spirits, and some more closely than others. I have connected with so many different ones. It's kind of hard to keep track of who I'm talking with sometimes. But you can feel their energy. They're all very different, just like we are all individual. They too are very individual in their own way. And so some angelics. I work with the Arcturian commander Ashtar. One interesting aspect that he told me a little while after he came into my focus and connection was that, and this just blew my mind, I didn't know how to handle this. He told me that he's my father, and I was like, what? And he said to me, it's not like your earthly father. And I thought, oh, okay, well that's good, that puts it in a perspective that I can handle, right? I also work with amazing beings called the emissaries of light, and one in specific of the consciousness named itself Megalithicon. That's a mouthful, so I just call it Mega for short. But it gives you sort of an understanding, and I think it did this for this reason, of how massive this energy is. Megalithicon, wow. So I also channel the Sphinx. Now, she is an amazing energy, and there's always something that's going on when I channel her. She always brings me for a ride or tells me something of really great interest. I also channel a collective group of goddesses, which is Isis, Mother Mary, Mary Magdalene, Sophia, Kuan Yin, and several others. And sometimes they come as a group, and sometimes individually, depending on what they're coming to say. So, and one interesting thing that Mary Magdalene told me, which sort of set my wheels in motion for the retreat to south of France, was that she told me, we used to meet at the well. Now, when she said that, I didn't understand. What is the well? I didn't realize the importance of what the well was back in the day. But it is where everyone met to talk about what was going on. And that really intrigued me. And so I'm very excited to go to the south of France to learn more and to reconnect with her and others. And then something else that happened was I learned how to bilocate. And bilocation is being in two simultaneous realms at once. And so on the land, I had a happening which took me into another time, and yet I was in my current time. So two timelines happening simultaneous. And it's not a difficult thing to do. It's kind of easily taught, and you have to practice it, but like riding a bike, the more you do it, the better you get at it. But I guess it was important to my work because I've worked with many people in healing. And so it's been very helpful, and I could share stories about that, but that's another time. So, okay. So, the doorway to change. So our human experience is through polarity, and I think everybody knows that. We distinguish infinite viewpoints in our polarity. If you think about it, I'm an artist, so I know that standing in a different direction gives me a whole other aspect to something of understanding. I can see things in a different way. And this has really taught me. I had a great vision when I was doing a shamanic journey once, and I met a guy that came in, and I had a question. And in very simple terms, as masters will speak, he said to me, "Move the bench." I'm going to tell you it's probably one of the most profound things I've ever heard in my life, 3 words. But it says it all, because when you stand and you look in a different way, it shows you a whole other aspect, which is what living life is all about, time after time, lifetime after lifetime. So one aspect to moving through polarity is to stay present, to hold space, and then learn how to deal with adversity. And who here's had adversity? Okay, we could talk a whole day on that, right? And then transmute the energy, and then model it. And so there are people that ask, what am I doing here? Well, maybe it is as simple as that, is that you are a model for others. And that's a big job, and a very important job. So the concept here, it's your relationship to everything that changes. It's how you view it. That we know, I know as a practitioner and others that are also, that when healing occurs, it's because some perspective has changed. I mean, who here has already had a change from just what's been going on here through the energy? Yeah, it changes you. So it's why we have so many lives, and we're learning through that, in that way. Okay. So I'm working right now with a quantum biologist, and he's an energy scientist. He's very cutting edge. As a scientist, he's a spiritual person, but he knows his shit. And I love working with him. We have a great dynamics. We understand each other as much as I can understand the science, and if I don't, he explains it to me in the best term that he can. And I try to explain to him what I see in the unseen realm. So it works. It's a good marriage. And we are working on what and how energy affects DNA. So everything that everybody's been talking about, it's like, well, you know, I know Magenta talked about we don't need always to understand the science, but I'm going to break it down kind of in a little bit of a simple term so that we can understand a different side to it, a different perspective. And it's a vast and complex field, I will tell you, because this is what even this scientist, and he's in his mid-70s, so he's been doing this a very long time. This is what he says also. So your energy field is created by your DNA, your Merkaba. Everything in your DNA connects to each other. Your DNA is like a quantum antenna. I mean, you know, it's receiving constantly and putting out constantly. It's back and forth flow. And it's incredibly sensitive to energies. So that's, you know, when you're caught in something, it's because your DNA is experiencing this. And I just want to mention, there are 2 DNAs, okay? You have your biological DNA, but you have your spiritual DNA. And not that we're separating, but your spiritual runs alongside of your biological. and it conducts and allows for electricity to flow through it. So you're not aware of it, but it is happening moment by moment and has since your beginning. And this has not really been discovered. This is a new discovery in medicine, actually. So I'm going to give you a little science here, okay? Electricity is the movement of electrons between atoms. And what keeps electrons moving is electricity and magnetism, the repelling and the attraction. This is what keeps it going constantly. So if you can imagine, here's an atom, and this is gigantic, because atoms are, I'm going to tell you how big an atom is. This is an atom, okay? You have a nucleus in the middle. You have electrons, okay, which become formed from the energy that's going on. So there's energy around, between atoms, so you've got multi-atoms going on, and energy's flowing within the atom itself, okay? Now, an atom is so small that if it were to be magnified to the size of a solar system, it would still only appear spherical to the width of a human hair. That's amazing to me. I mean, I'm just, blows my mind, okay? So the more that electricity flows through, the stronger and better for the DNA. Now, you would kind of figure that, right? Well, and then maybe not. So we are conducting experiments. I've been working with him for a while, and we're calculating many energies of different kinds and the conductivity of electricity through the DNA. So what we're doing is I'm channeling what and how and who to work with. And so we're working with light, we're working with spirits, different beings, objects, all different types of particulars. And we're calculating over a period of time what is happening, how is that DNA receiving? Because who here has had some kind of energy work? Yeah, most everybody, right? But do you know really what is happening to you at that moment? You just feel it, And maybe it's not important to you. And how DNA changes and the effects that are going on to the DNA. So how it becomes more receptive and a better conductor, which I don't know about you, but I want my DNA to be more receptive and a better conductor, because that's what it's all about. DNA is where it's at, right? So the implication here is that if it does it with electricity, okay, then it can do it with other types of energy, like scalar and quantum. Now, I think after this weekend, we know this is going on. I mean, this is pretty apparent to us. But this is showing it in a different light. And it's also that we've established different patterns and different waves of energy. So when I ask to look at the energy, I can see there's AC/DC. One is a straight linear and the other is patterning like this. EMF shoots out like this. It's different, it's a different pattern, it's a different movement. Then moving into scalar. Scalar is quieter, but still movement. And then moving into the quantum, it's like silence, and yet it's moving. So they're all very different, and their effects on us are very different also. So they have distinct patterns and waves. And it also shows that electricity flow can also be decreased. This is also something that we're seeing. So not only increased, but it can literally decrease the energy. And that does not mean it's decreasing your energy that you're going to feel worse. We're speculating, and we've not proven this yet. We're still in the works of understanding it, but we're fairly close in thinking that it's actually turning off certain signals and codes that are no longer needed. So the frequencies of DNA are a measure of codes of light, as you've been hearing, and these are not genetic codes. These are codes of light in a different way. And what's very important is that it is so precise in the movement, and this is what I keep hearing and keep seeing. The precision of the movement is as important, if not more, than anything else. That energy it is so precise. And this movement creates vibrations in different ways. And this creates the perfect resonance. So DNA utilizes precise movement. Now, this is not just my words. I'm going to read you something a little bit about where I've also learned this from. So the movement converts to sound and to light, and it stores information and transmits energy and messages, or through messages through this energy. And it can translate sound into light, like I said, and light into sound. When we experience energy of any kind, love, hate, anger, healing, whatever type it is, we know something's happening. We can feel it. We're aware enough of that. But this research is actually calculating with precision, and it's showing proof of what's happening, and I'm going to explain in a minute. I channeled, first of all, what spirits to work with, because you're starting with a blank canvas. Okay, what do we do here? And I was very curious who wanted to come forward, as I work with many. Mary Magdalene, she was the first. And then I also channeled the Arcturian commander, Ashtar, and also Mega from the Emissaries of Light. I've channeled others, we've worked with other subtle energies, but these three I'm bringing forward to share with you. So Mary Magdalene and Mega, they came in about the same range, the same percentage, fairly close. And the Arcturian commander came in much lower. And so that was a surprise. But over a period of time, we watched how the energy changed. We kept calculating what was occurring. What was interesting is Mary Magdalene and Mega, they kept moving and rising in their percentage. And they moved up to almost 80% change within a 24-hour period. What does that mean? That means that when you're finished doing some type of energy or movement in your energy exchange, it doesn't stop there. It continues, it changes. And the Arcturian commander, what was really interesting is that not only did he come in at a certain percentage, but what was fascinating is then suddenly, in a moment, he changed the frequency totally to another frequency. Now, that's kind of interesting. And that he has the ability and the desire to create a whole new frequency. So that, in moving forward, shares a lot for us. Now, what we're determining now is what type of medium will hold this light, this information, and we're working with this in many different mediums. Crystals, water, elements, minerals, all kinds of things. What's going to hold it? And so we looked at 4 different types of energy and medium. The first one, and I channeled this again so that we would have guidance. The first one we utilized was pyrite, nano gold, and a silica. And each one having their own properties I won't go into, but they being the carrier. And so we started out by putting them in the water and channeling, and it was a cancellation. We could not get a reading on the frequencies coming in, so we decided that we would just take a bottle of water, distilled water, and we would put it on top of these minerals and these metals, and then check it, because that's our gauge to work with, check what that percentage is. And we found that they store energy, obviously, but they spontaneously, we're not affecting it in any way, they spontaneously release energy, like they have a consciousness to do what they do. Okay. Then I did some channeling into the medium. And what we found is that we consistently came up with the same percentages and the same number. This shows channeling of a different type of energy other than the medium that we were using. And its nature of the energy that is being emitted is what's creating the difference. So different place that the energy is coming from. Now, I have a piece of a spaceship, and we know it's a spaceship, okay? And how do I know it's a spaceship? Because I channeled it, and from the person that I got it from. It's a very special piece that I have, and we tested this. And I can show it to you, I brought it with me if you'd like to stop by and see it. But after 8 hours, it started out at low frequency, and it got stronger, the effect. Then we did it a second time, and we tested it, and it came in very consistent. Now, consistency in measurements in science, this is very important. And it showed the energy, not only was it changing, the actual energy was changing, but it was interacting with the outside influences. Now, I'm going to read to you what I picked up, just a little snippet of it. So the spaceship, when I channeled it, this is what it says. It brings a high caliber of energy, which we are not familiar with yet, from another dimension. It carries technology that I don't even understand yet, which passes through my brain and I can write about, but I don't have the concept. It carries codes for transmission, connecting to a substance that we connect with that penetrates in a way we are learning about on Earth and that we haven't quite learned yet. It carries signals from afar, transmitting to a medium, allowing for movement and understanding, and allows us to hear in a different way. It adjusts how my mind thinks, and I could literally feel this when I was doing the transmission. It surpasses my intellect and alters my perception. It alters the fluidity of the being of me. And within myself, I felt myself moving in a different way. I could feel my whole energy was so very different than what I'm used to. And it reprograms my way of thinking, bringing information into focus and with clarity, and connects to my desire, and then I manifest. It alters my DNA, connecting to other strands, penetrates all aspects of the self, and rearranges thought process, how things are viewed. It's alive, it's functioning, and communicating. Now, this piece that I have, it is a physical piece, but my understanding later when I was doing more transmission with it, it's of a sort of liquid type of form. It is not anything we are familiar with on Earth here. Then I received, that's just a snippet on the spaceship. Then I received, some time ago, I've been working with, who knows Robert Peralta? Anybody? Okay. So Robert's written numerous books and such, and he gave me, because I can read energy, he gave me these codes that were downloaded in 2006. And nobody's translated them. He's just held on to them. He couldn't find anybody to translate. And I was like really tickled to have them because it was a lot of fun for me. Like, wow, what's it gonna say to me, you know? And so what we did, what I did is we tested water with the medium in it on top of the paperwork. Yeah, is it up there? Yeah, here it is, right here. And this is a little bit of it too. This is about another galaxy. This is another galaxy right here, what it talks about. But these codes that come in, by the way, it's from right to left. These codes, we put the water on it and we tested what the water did. What did the DNA experience? It didn't experience anything, sitting on top of the paper. But when I activated it and I started to translate, and again, hinges on what everybody here has been talking about, activation, right? It created an interaction, a resonance, and the information transferred to the bottle of DNA. And it began to release information. It had a huge effect. This is probably one of the largest effects of all things we have tested so far. It came in at 142%. It's the highest we've tested anything, and that includes beds and all kinds of things. When I read this information, this literally blew my mind, and I'm going to share with you kind of what it said. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but I do want to share with you what these symbols started to speak about, okay? When I always begin activating by reading codes or whatever, orbs show up. So the codes and symbols read like a book. Each page is chock filled with information. So this is like a manuscript. This is one page in a manuscript of information, but one needing the other page to understand it more fully. It's advising us how to live. It's a book of life. It's given from a collection of star beings, and like they got together, I had a feeling, and they put the information embedded and coded in here. And I know two of them. One are from Sirius, and the other are Pleiadian. I haven't gotten through the rest of it because it's so intense that it's a lot of energy reading it. It speaks to a formulation of direct energy enabling frequency and bands to come through and communicate the way in which we move through dimensions or from 3D and beyond. It's about the movement itself and the way it moves, finding the way through the changing from dimension to dimension. It's effortless and with ease. And that was one thing I picked up that seemed to come in so strong, is that, you know, I don't know about you, but we're all kind of working to move through into ascension, right, to evolve. And here it talks about, like, it's just with ease. It's like the way we sing and move through octaves. It's subtle shifting, but you know when it happens. There are levels of octaves that no one can actually hear, not even dogs or, you know, the whistle. There's no sound. It just merges and melds with our being. This gives us a reference of how to behave or how to navigate our life. It gives us an understanding of what to do in life. And it's a different understanding because we're struggling in 3D. It talks about the ley lines and the earth energy grid. It speaks to the higher communications about our planetary system and solar system also. It's information that has been transmitted into the pyramids and the Sphinx, accessing ways of understanding the way energy can be utilized and the way energy transmits from the pyramids and the Sphinx, the way we travel physically outside of our planet. I could see symbols and mathematical equations like theorists do, and what they would work on in quantum entanglement theories. I could see images of the Hadron Collider in Switzerland and how they're searching for the information and experimenting to find just that moment where that happening occurs as they bring molecules together, subatomic, very minute. We can't see it as we bring it all together. The beings that bring this symbology knows this. They know this knowledge is here. They've held it here. And the beings that bring this symbology are trying to help us put these pieces together. It's like once we know, life will never be the same again for us. And it's not as hidden as we think. When I heard this little piece of information, I began to cry. I had an energetic response because I could feel for humanity that this was super important information that's been hidden, kept quiet, not understood or looked at. And that this manuscript needs to, it's going to help us understand what to do. So this is very powerful and profound for humanity. And once this is unlocked, we will remember. So this is very big for mankind. We are being prepared right now. And it's not something we need to read or do or anything. It's just an experience. It's not intellectual. It's just the experience of it. And so it talked about particles, large massive amounts that make up this information that attunes us, particles that swirl. It's a pattern of movement and very specific in the way it moves, the motion of it. It's very directed. It's a tempo also, and it's how, it talks about how we separate from what we are now and moving into this new way. And I asked, what's in the middle or between the particles? I wanted to understand more about that. And it's space between the particles, it's quantum. And it's the interaction or resonance between these particles and quantum and a specific patterning of the movement. So I kept coming up with, it's all about the movement. So I want to, I know Neil's saying he's giving me a little bit of time here. I want to show you something really interesting while I was doing this particular reading of these symbols. So, this is the highlight for me, and this is no pun intended. Okay, I'm going to play this for you. Oh, here we go. You can't see it. You see these orbs that show up. So what happened was, as I'm translating, suddenly Glen's computer changed. He was working on equations and that, taking measurements as I'm talking. He's doing something else. And I'm just transmitting what I'm reading, these symbols. Suddenly his computer goes blank and it turns pink. And these orbs, they began pulsing to what I was saying. They were communicating. And that's what these symbols did. Talk about blow your mind. I mean, I don't know about you, but I almost fell off my chair. I was so excited because this puts us in a totally different understanding from a scientific viewpoint. So, I don't even know where to go from here. Okay. This has never happened before in all his years of working. And he's worked with healers and all different types of subtle energies and all types of energies. This has never happened. This just happened. And I didn't know it because my eyes were closed and I'm just transmitting and reading what the symbols are. I've got the DNA in my hand in a little vial, and my hand's on top of the codes, and I'm just listening to what it's saying to me, you know, receiving. And this is going on over here in my left corner, but he's not saying anything. When we were finished, he played it back. It blew his mind too, as a scientist. So it's quite fascinating to watch what's occurring in our DNA and in our energy, you know. So we're still experimenting. We've got a lot more to go. We're publishing this information because this is just not written about anywhere. This is new findings for us. And so I just want to say, is there any questions or something maybe I can elaborate?
Can we move the mics on?
Can you say
Can we
it?
move the mics on to create a shot?
Oh, sorry. Is it in the way? This one?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, what's the name of the manuscript you're doing? Manuscript?
It's not in publication. It's just a bunch of papers that nobody has really done anything with, and it just came into my hands.
Like ancient?
It's not, no, it's not ancient. It was downloaded to this person, this young man, and he just started writing, but he didn't know, he couldn't translate, he didn't know anything about it, he just wrote it, that was it. What to do with it is the question, right? So now it's unfolding. Now is the right time to, you know, bring this into our world and understand in a better way. And this is one tiny little snippet to this volume of great information for us. And you can see, they're ready to talk to us about it. Sure.
And who can translate this?
Nobody, I can translate. I just put my hand on it and listen to what they say. And I just read that to you. And that's just a very tiny little piece of the whole book, we'll say. So I didn't even get into the picture, you know, of the other galaxy. There's a lot of information in this, yeah. So, any other questions?
You can take questions in the booth too.
Okay, yeah, I can do that, okay. So, thank you for listening. One more question? I can talk to you at the booth, yeah?
What does the meaning of right?
What does,
Do you know the meaning?
I just read just a little snippet of what it was, the codes, yeah, yeah. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Laurie. All right, everybody. So I just want to check in with you all, because I don't know if you're feeling the same way as me, but it's real stuffy in here.